Jonas Vingegaard is back, ready to compete in the 2024 Tour de France after his horrific injury in the Basque Country. And it's something that we are overjoyed about. However, when our beloved Danish anchovy and the Slovenian skier and the gringo Andorran pissed in the face of their rivals in the last Vuelta a España, a mythical French rider and team manager arched his eyebrow. It was Eric Boyer, the popular gregario of monsters like Laurent Fignon or Greg LeMond's, who, upon seeing the exhibition of the former Rabobank team in that competition, felt totally deceived and defrauded. He, who had seen dopers like Friend of the Channel and bald-headed Lothario Bjarne Riis drooling with exhaustion, could not believe how these men could put on more impressive and simply better displays, crossing the finish line whistling, almost doing wheelies on their bicycles. It was something that, for Boyer, is undoubtedly embarrassing. The man who has made his living from professional cycling for almost 30 years has not shied away from talking about proper names either. For him, there are cyclists like Pogacar and Vingegaard and Evenepoel or Van Aert who are clearly very talented, but their continuous displays remind him of times gone by, and he insists there is still a lot of doping in cycling, and that there is no real proof that the scourge of drugs has disappeared from the world of cycling. Boyer also assured everyone that in 2024 there is still doping in cycling. If 20 years ago cyclists won loaded with illicit products, and if the current riders have a higher level than those dirty dopers, something is going on. He also dares to throw darts at those who think that the earth is flat, assuring that, yes, bicycles and training methods are better, but we must remember that the UCI found nothing on Lance Armstrong for 12 years, and then in just 6 months, thanks to WADA, all his lies were discovered. Now, undoubtedly Boyer's harsh words join those of Manzano or Mayo or Bernal, words we have brought you in recent months on this channel. Many testimonies from within cycling that take shots at the current champions, a wave of criticism never seen to date. But as we always do on this channel, we will demonstrate the cheap hypocrisy of these characters, and also we will look for reasons to explain this volume of accusation and hatred towards the clearly 120% clean cyclists of today. Eric Boyer has a very clean record in the history of cycling, so much so that in 2020 he himself claimed that the peloton was 80% clean, unlike his epocha in the 90s or 2000s, where 100% of the peloton was doping. His own words. Now, not only does he think that in the last 4 years doping has increased significantly, with the appearance of Pogacar and Vingegaard and other aliens, he also claims that he himself doped as a professional, a somewhat strange confession, especially as having always been part of the always clean teams of Roger Leger, the mythical doped cyclist and director of doped cyclists, who had in his stable clean riders such as Greg LeMond or Philippe York. Boyer is one of those good Gregario Plus riders who achieved 3-stage victories in the Giro d'Italia, a 5th place in the 1988 Tour de France when EPO made its first appearance, and a 6th place in the 1991 Giro d'Italia when EPO was already widespread in the peloton. And then in addition he won several competitions against confessed dopers like Laurent Brochard, Richard Virenque or Laurent Debian. He shared a stable for years not only with Le Monde and Fignon or Boardman, but also with true monsters of doping such as Dracula Gianetti, Didier Rousse or the mythical Kim Anderson, the Dane. It's always a Dane, and he still holds the world record of the professional cyclist who has tested positive for doping the most times, with a hilarious figure of 7 positive occasions, the last of them in 1992, when Boyer himself finished in a very good 12th place in a Tour de France full of dopers. But of course, his career as a sports director doesn't lag behind either. He was general manager of the Cofidis team between 2005 and 2012, managing riders known for their cleanliness, such as the British alcoholic friend of Lance Armstrong, the self-confessed dope to the eyebrows Stuart O'Grady, or Rick Verbrugge. One of those who fled in the San Remo raid in the 2001 Giro d'Italia just when he was having the season of his life, and who never regained that level at any point. However, Eric Boyer's masterpiece, the icing on the oh-so-clean cake, was when he tried to make Cofidis imitate his mentor Leger, and with the signing of Italian Cristian Moreni, a former stage winner in the Vuelta a España and Giro d'Italia, at the tender age of 33 he brought him back to the top, to a team with the longest sponsor relationship. A sponsor who lends money to desperate people in exchange for insane interest rates. And Moreni almost did it. There was a second-place finish the day after Disneylandis in the 2006 Tour de France, losing a bloody sprint to former teammate Matteo Tessato. Now that year, Moreni finished 3 more Tour de France stages in the top 10. He finished 5th in the Classica San Sebastian and 4th in the Giro di Lombardia, having the best campaign of his life when he was the age of Mel Gibson's favourite fictional character, when he was nailed to the cross. Thanks to Boyer's advice, he prepared better than ever for the 2007 Tour de France, finishing second again in one of the Frenchman's private domains when he was a pro, the stages of the Tour de Suisse. Moreni was going into the Grand Boucle like a bullet from a gun, but his dream was cut short on the same day that Visma Lease bike kicked Chicken Rasmussen out of the Tour de France after he had won on the Aubisque. Moreni had tested positive for testosterone in a doping control with new detection techniques. Boyer's big signing had turned out to be a fraud, like the ones he now dares to point the finger at. Now, if you notice in the words where he assures everyone that there is currently a lot of doping in cycling, he tries to indirectly blame the UCI by mentioning that with Lance Armstrong it took more than a decade to act. And he's not wrong. But we have to also ask ourselves why there's so much resentment towards the UCI from a guy who's lived like a king of this sport for 3 decades. Perhaps the explanation can be found in his frustrated attempt to lead the sport. You see, after the Moreni case, Boyer pretended to be offended and assured everyone that he knew nothing and that he was totally deceived. Then with his hypocritical former director, Roger Leger, he helped to create the Movement for Credible Cycling, which is responsible for giving lessons to cyclists according to their origins. Remember, if you are Colombian and you test positive for tramadol, like Tramadolito Quintana, then you're a pariah. But if you're French and you test positive for tramadol, like Alex Baudin, you can not only continue to compete for the same French team, you can also perform better than ever before, just as little Alexander the Great is doing in the Giro d'Italia 2024. Now, in January 2008, Eric tried to take the big leap forward by becoming the president of the International Association of Professional Cycling Teams, succeeding the old Belgian alcoholic from Quick-Step. But in just 2 months, the UCI was already asking for his resignation for having sided with Omari Sports in the fight between Pat McQuaid and Christian Prudhomme, one which ended with the arrival of the UCI World Rankings the following season. A monstrosity that nobody took into account because that same year, Lance Armstrong returned to racing. And so, at a stroke, the UCI and the ASO and Boyer were nobodies where the press were concerned. In short, Boyer made many, many enemies in the UCI, and we imagine that it must hurt him a lot that a simple town mayor, who's never been a great professional like him, now gets all the power and money and fame. And Eric has to be content with appearing on this channel for calling Poggy and the Anchovy & Co. dopers. How difficult life is.